Mr. Birding, members of the board, we do have several items for board discussion this evening. Our first two items will be covered by Mr. Birding. Our first item is the Ohio School Boards Association Virtual Annual Business Meeting. At this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Birding.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mrs. Lane contacted me the other day to say that this is probably an item we should discuss at this meeting. There is now it's going to be a virtual Ohio School Board Association business meeting, and in the past, Mrs. Shorter has been our delegate, so we do need to appoint a delegate. Is that correct, Mrs. Lane? And so, Mrs. Shorter, if you'd be willing to do that again, if you'd like to do it, you are our legislative liaison, so would you like to do that again, or can you do that on October the 29th for a virtual meeting?
I can do that.
Okay, and do we need to also do an alternate, correct, Mrs. Lane? So I think before I've served as the alternate, but would someone else like to serve as the alternate in case Mrs. Shorter cannot make it?
If needed.
Okay. So we'll put down, thank you, Mr. Shorter and Mr. Begley. We'll appoint Mrs. Shorter as the delegate and Mr. Begley as the alternate under items for board action later in the meeting. Okay, thank you very much. And the next item is the Butler Tech update. And last meeting, I handed out a little booklet of data, and I just was going to cover a little bit of it today. I don't know if you all had the opportunity to keep that with you, or I have extra copies if you...
I can have an extra copy.
You need it? Okay.
Yeah, because I did look through it, but I didn't bring it.
Okay.
with me. Thank you.
Mrs. Gumdren, do you need one?
I could use an extra copy, please.
Okay. And I'm sorry, Mrs. O'Neill, I can't hand you one through the screen here, but...
That's okay.
I just wanted to cover just some numbers of Fairfield students and overall students. So on the first page, you have the total secondary student head count. So for 1920 school year, we had 18,120 students taking at least one class in grades 7 through 12. And that covers all the associate school districts as well. So that's Fairfield, Lakota, Hamilton, and all the other 9 districts. So there's 11 associate school districts that Butler Tech serves. And so that is a new high count for students that have taken classes through Butler Tech. And so they're in 50 school buildings throughout Butler and Hamilton counties. We have teachers. So the second page is the full-time equivalent students numbers. And so that's, if they're just taking one class, it would take then 7 students taking one class to equal a full-time equivalent. I think that's the number. Is that right, Mr. Martin?
Typically.
Typically, okay. So again, so we had 3,718.18 students as an average daily membership. So on any given day, we're serving 18,000 students, but it's counting as 3,700 and change students on a given day. And you see that number is up significant, just like the number of total head count from 16,800 to 18,000, and then from 3,400 to 3,700 from one school year to the next. One of the goals for Butler Tech is to reach the greatest number of students, and so this obviously is something that is working in that towards that direction. On page 3, I kind of cover how we get students. So there is a career lab at our Fairfield Township campus, and we invite students in grades 7 and 8 to come and do virtual virtual experience, but on campus. So they can do simulators on working on cars. They can do simulators on operating heavy equipment. They can do simulators on going into our bioscience lab. And so they can kind of figure out if they're interested in coming to Butler Tech. And so you can see last year, Fairfield Creekside and Fairfield Crossroads only had 58% of the students visit. But that's because of the COVID shutdown. When it was time for the rest of the students to come, the government had shut down the school building. So The next page talks about what the 18-19 school year was. And you can see 82% of the Creekside students came to a career lab visit, and 85% of the Fairfield Crossroads students came to the career lab at the Fairfield Township campus. And so if you look at compare the numbers to the other school districts, Fairfield, you can see overwhelmingly had the most kids come to the career labs. And so you'll see that later in the numbers, how that reflects to how many people actually apply to come to Butler Tech. So while, again, those numbers, if you look back at the numbers on page 3, 58% is low compared to other districts. Percentage-wise, it still was very high with the actual number of students that came. So that's how, students can show interest in coming to the actual career campus as a sophomore, as a junior, or as a senior. So the next page talks about the applications on getting into Butler Tech. And it's broken down by program and also by school district. The back page of that paper actually has the totals, so it's kind of a two-pager. And I will tell you that you have to add Lakota West and Lakota East together, obviously, to get the total numbers from Lakota. And then you have to add Colerain High School and Northwest High School to get the Northwest Local School District numbers combined. But again, Fairfield sort of leads the way. I mean, look how many kids applied for the 10th grade academy. 79 kids from Fairfield applied for that compared to 11 from Colerain and 29 from Lakota West. I mean, it's just an overwhelming majority of the kids that apply. So I did add up the totals. So for Fairfield, we had 297 total kids apply to come to Butler Tech. Lakota had 243, and Northwest Local School District had 235. So that was the top 3 school districts that had kids apply to come to the Butler Tech campus. If you have questions as I'm going, please interrupt me, and I can try to answer them if I have the answers for you. So the next page talks about, what happens if they don't get accepted. And so you can see the top line is the number of accepted students, and then halfway down the page it starts talking about, if they're denied their application and what's the reason that their application was denied. And so I want to point out the first thing that has a number 1 by it is denied because they're credit deficient. So Butler Tech doesn't deny students that are credit deficient unless they're not able to make up those credits while attending Butler Tech. They do have programs in place where kids can catch up if they're credit deficient, but if this is not physically possible because of labs to catch up credit-wise, then that is one reason why they would deny a student to come. You can see there's a denial for grade level. They may have applied for coming as a 10th grader for something that's only for 11th or 12th graders, or vice versa, and so that's why they were denied. One thing that's kind of concerning is the denial no-show, and so I did make a note there. That was just kind of disappointing that you apply for a position and then you just don't show up for an interview. And even if you decided to change your mind, you didn't want to come to Butler Tech, I still think it's a great idea to come get the interview, because that's a great experience on interviewing for a job. And truly, the interview process is what ultimately lets a kid come into the school, as opposed to their matrix, their score. Because Butler Tech wants kids that want to be there, they have a desire to continue in that field, and the interview kind of helps the principals and the teachers understand what type of student is coming in. So for them not to show up for an interview is kind of disappointing, like I said, because the experience of just having a job interview is worthwhile. Even if you planned on turning Butler Tech down, I still think you should come to the interview, and I'm hoping more kids do come to the interviews. And then, of course, there's denial because the program is full, and you can see 17 of the Butler Tech students were denied because the program was full. And the higher demand courses could make that number higher. So if they're applying for like cosmetology or welding, which are very high in-demand courses, and they had limited space for them because you only so many welding booths or so many cosmetology booths, then those numbers could be higher or lower based on what they're applying for. So the next page, we talk about, it breaks it down if they got their first choice, or if they got their second choice, or if they got their third choice, what they were applying for. So if someone applies for their first choice, but it's full or whatever, they could also then move to their second choice. But they're not locked in. So you change your mind, you're like, well, it was either going to be welding or nothing, and I didn't get welding, then they could walk away. It's not like you're saying, no, you've said that second choice is auto mechanics, so you have to do that. They don't adhere to that. The next page is, again, it talks about the number of accepted students and some of the reasons why they might be denied. The page after that is just sort of a graph on what those reasons might be. On page 10, we talk about campus enrollment. So that's the number of students that are actually on the Butler Tech campuses, not in the Fairfield High School. And so I'll just kind of give you what the abbreviations mean. So BSC is our Bioscience Center. That's our Westchester campus. And that opened in 2015. DRL is the D. Russell E. building at the Fairfield Township campus. NSC is the Natural Science Center at our Monroe campus. PL and PS, that's Project Search and Project Life. Those are for our most needy students. Those are tremendous programs. And SOA is School of the Arts. And a couple years ago, we did move that back to the Fairfield Township campus. That was in downtown Hamilton for a while. And you'll see the numbers, and the reason there's no number for the bioscience building in 14 is because, excuse me, because that wasn't open, and that's why the numbers decreased dramatically in fiscal year 15 for the DRL building, because our bioscience students moved to the bioscience campus. That's why there's a dramatic decrease. But you can see that there's quite the number of enrollment for the campuses. And those are just Fairfield students, okay, on that chart.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering why those numbers look low.
Yes. So in school year 20, they had 280.92 Fairfield students on the campuses, in one of those 4 campuses. And even though the School of the Arts is actually on the Fairfield Township campus, it is considered a separate school, even though it's on the same campus. Okay, the next page is the total satellite for Fairfield students. And again, that's Fairfield students taking classes at Fairfield, but they're Butler Tech classes taught by Butler Tech teachers. And so last year they had 418.04 full-time equivalent students at at Fairfield taking Butler Tech classes. And that would be grades 7 through 12. And you can see there's a little uptick from the last year and the year before. The next page, we did break those down by building. So you can see which the 2 middle schools, the freshman school and the high school, the number of teachers that Butler Tech has in each of those buildings, the number of active Fairfield students taking Butler Tech classes, and the total number of Fairfield students at that building. And that gives you the percentage of people that are, students that are taking Butler Tech classes at those buildings. I did break it down by the different programs that our Fairfield students are taking. And so from the arts, the bioscience, business, CBI, which is career-based initiatives, and engineering. FCS is Family Consumer Sciences. Okay? And then Information Technology and Teacher Academy. And you can see that the Teacher Academy is no longer listed because we did divest, or we got rid of that program in fiscal year 16. So we didn't have enough students taking that. And if you see the biomedical science numbers are also gone because we don't have those classes in Fairfield buildings anymore. We have that Fairfield, the bioscience campus, and that's why those numbers are blank for year 15 through 20. So the district, the buildings by students by district, you can see Fairfield has 34 students in grades 7 through 12 taking classes at the Fairfield schools. Okay? And so, I'm sorry, that's how many students are in Fairfield School District in grades 7 through 12, 34. And 37, I'm sorry, I was right the first time. The number of, I have to read my handwriting here. Total number of students in Fairfield schools is 3739. Okay? That's the total number of Butler Tech. Sorry, I have to get my notes here. So Fairfield makes up 20.7% of all the Butler Tech students. Okay? Out of the all the kids taking classes. Okay, so 34 is the number of students taking at least one Butler Tech class for Fairfield and in Butler Tech buildings. 305 students are on the Butler Tech campuses, which totals 3739. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So that makes up, again, 20% of the Butler Tech students. And then this next page talks about what's the market share. So Fairfield has 5,430 total students in grades 7 through 12, and 3739 of them are taking a Butler Tech class. So that's roughly 68 to 69% of the grades 7 through 12 kids in Fairfield are taking at least one Butler Tech class. And if you take that over all of our pre-K through 12 enrollment, 37.66% of all Fairfield students, including pre-K to 12, are taking at least one Butler Tech class. And that's the highest percentage out of all the associate schools at Butler Tech. And the last couple pages talks about GPA by program. So the highest GPA for a Butler Tech student is in graphic design, 3.68. Mechatronics is the second highest GPA with 3.51. And the third is the biomedical science students. And the last page I want to talk about is college credit plus credits earned by Butler Tech students. And so it talks about 71 students, or 22.3% of the students at the bioscience campus earned CCP credits. And it breaks it down by each of the other different Butler Tech campus and the number of students that earned a CCP credit. And so that was a lot of data, and I know I kind of rambled on a little bit about it, but I just wanted you to have all the facts. There's many more data, very much more data available. If you are interested in anything, please feel free to email me if you want it broken down any more. But again, we're trying to reach the greatest number of students and providing career opportunities for them if they're interested. Any questions?
I actually do have a question, and it's one I was going to talk to you about, because one of the things that I see that's like an old world skill that's not as prevalently talked about, taught, and even in home ec. Well, I don't think the appropriate term is home ec. It's
The
family.
family consumer science?
Yes, family consumer science. Um, The piece that I think is missing, that I wish we could find or get a little bit of, is sewing.
Sewing.
Sewing, yes, old school sewing. There are so many kids that, basically haven't had a chance to get any information on it. There's so many things that you can do with that. There's an interest that a lot of the kids have in design, and, not just graphic design, which deals with, drawing and things like that. But I'm talking like a fashion design type program where they learn how to do the basics of sewing. And, I mean, is that covered somewhere and I missed it? Because I just haven't seen that, but I think that would be great to kind of lend itself into a
Right.
fashion design.
I do believe that there is some sort of fashion design program that they're working on, but I don't think it's in family consumer science.
Okay, because I
So-
looked at I didn't see anything here.
Let me get that information for you, and I'll email it to the board,
Okay,
okay?
yeah.
I know
That
that,
was fun.
others, it might be in part of the graphic design, so I don't know if they actually are hands-on.
So that's what I wasn't sure about, because I looked at that and I thought, well, that's probably more of the digital, well, it's more of a media with maybe a computer technology and actually drawing things up. But I wasn't sure if that actually
Sure.
was where it was covered. Someone did ask me about it, if that was a program that was available, and I was stumped because I could not think of
Yeah,
any of it. But sewing is an old world skill that has gained some prominence and interest, particularly because people are trying to sew masks and all that stuff. But it sort of sparked, I guess, an interest in, some people. So I was approached about whether or not that was available. And
Okay.
I didn't know for sure. But if that could be something that you guys looked at, I mean, maybe there could be a class here at even Fairfield, or, it could be scaled into a whole design program to kind of meet that need. I could see a lot of creativity and entrepreneurship opportunities for particularly for the young people that are interested in that.
okay. I'll get an answer for you.
Okay, thank you. I did have a question also about the welding program.
Okay?
I understand that that's definitely something in high demand. Do we have any numbers that kind of show what that sort of medium salary is for the kids that graduate out of that program? Are they going directly into welding jobs? Do you know what that salary is that they're
Yeah, I
making?
did have that number. I can get that for you. I want to say it's in the mid-40s to 50s out of high school. And most of the seniors are, instead of in the lab, they're actually at jobs.
Okay,
Instead of coming to school, they're going to their job. And so they're getting credit for school while working, usually their senior year. Usually all seniors in the welding program, they went through it as a junior, but as a senior, they're actually working at a job. And that's, and they're
so part of an internship?
yes, and then a lot of times their jobs are the ones that are certifying them in certain new
Like arc
welding
And
processes.
things like that, gotcha.
So, but I can find out a typical out of high school, what they're making right away, but I know it's in demand. And of course, also the type of welding you're doing changes that.
And how many young ladies do you have in that? Just an interest, because I know one year you had a young lady that went all the way to the top
Yeah, it was our
of the
our
competition.
most skilled welder. I don't know the numbers of the number of females in the welding program, but I'll get that for you as well.
Okay.
Welding demographics.
I wanna
Mr.
know-
Birding, I just Googled that, and it's in the first 1 to 4 years, the average compensation in their first 4 years is $16.98 an hour. What Google came up with real
Okay.
quickly.
And I'd want to know, just in general, are those programs which are typically sort of a male-dominated environment, are we getting a decent interest from young ladies? And is the marketing materials, I guess, interesting to them? Is it something that is thought about? Because that is not a typically female type of role or female dominant role, but I think the opportunities just based on the salary, you could go into a welding program, you could continue through college and get your engineering degree, you could get a welding certification, and then you could really do quite well. So I wonder if that's something that our kids have thought about, is that you might do welding, you might do automotive, but you could also still incorporate that with, have that as a job and still work for your college degree
Right.
and just, increase your earning mechanism, but use it all. Use that experience because that would sort of help you get through school.
Right.
Having that hands-on experience.
I do know that that the superintendent did talk about marketing towards non-traditional roles. And so we do try to market towards female welders. We market towards male cosmetologists, male nurses, dental hygienists, female auto mechanics, and auto collision. And so in carpentry, there is an effort to expand to the different, both of the sexes.
Yeah.
And so, and to try to get the non-traditional kids interested. And so I know that is part of the marketing plan, but I don't know what the specific market plan is. But I do know that, for each one would be different.
Yeah.
But I do know that they do look at that, and that's one of the things that the board asked a couple years ago was, because we did see that welding was male-dominated. And even, I know one thing that we've helped is information technology. We've got a lot more females interested in that.
Yeah.
Whatever marketing they were doing for that has been tremendous, so. But I'll definitely ask to see what the demographics are. And actually, I think I have it at home, broken down for every interest.
Yeah, I just want, our kids and families to know that, high-tech manufacturing is still here. Those jobs have not gone away.
Right.
Yes, there's a lot of exporting of low-tech fields, and it's across the board, but there are opportunities there. And so a good welder that has that background, automotive, those types of things, look through the whole plethora, up and down, the whole list, 'cause there are definite opportunities, and I just want to make sure that our families are not missing out on that.
Right. I think part of the problem that we are running into at Butler Tech is having to turn so many kids away
Yeah.
because of funding. And, I know at Fairfield, we're flat funded as well. And at Fairfield, we can't turn kids away,
Right.
But at Butler Tech, once a class gets filled, then there's no incentive to add more unless we can get a whole nother bunch of funding to get, like welding, you have to build another lab. You can't just stick them in another classroom, So we have worked with some manufacturers to donate materials and to donate space at their industries to try to get more kids involved in certain things if we were having to turn them away.
Yeah, because, we're going to come into a time where we are going to be short on that technology.
Yeah,
Just looking around in the industry, it's coming.
right.
Are we going to be prepared? Being in Fairfield, we do have a lot of companies that are highly needing that type of skill
Oh, yeah.
set. And are we going to have kids that are capable of going in and getting those jobs instead of losing those jobs to other places
Right.
outside of Fairfield? That is something I'm interested in. It's a concern. But I think there's also opportunities that I just don't want families to miss out on
Right.
simply because they don't know.
Right. Oh, great question.
Okay, that's it from me.
Anybody else?
If I can make one comment, I did hate to hear, and I know it was several years ago, that they stopped the teacher academy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there is such a need for educators across
Right.
our country. I would love if they could reconsider that at some point, to encourage really all of our students, or as many as possible, to go into that career.
Yeah. It was an enrollment issue, and
I know.
since we were turning so many kids away in other
Right,
areas, we said, well, that enrollment is down. And of course, if you were a junior, we let you finish
right.
your senior year. You come back the next year for your senior year. But we just didn't enroll any new juniors into the program. But I agree. It was a difficult decision to make because, I mean, we're into teaching,
Right.
business, but it was an enrollment issue. I think part of it is because, as we know, I mean, teachers don't make a whole lot of money coming right out of school. And so a lot of people weren't interested in getting into that profession, and that's what we ran into. I think it was also, at the same time, early childhood development was eliminated at the same time. And again, it was because, they just weren't interested in coming to leave Butler Tech and go into a field that was just so low paying. So, but I'll put that down. I'll bring it up. I agree. I mean, I'd love to see more teachers. So I'm a son of a teacher, so. Okay, anybody else have any questions or comments?
Thank you.
I have just a brief comment, just like to say how thankful we are as a school district for our partnership with Butler Tech. And hopefully we have a lot of people that will be watching this presentation. Similar to open enrollment and those numbers, sometimes I think that people don't realize how many of our kids take advantage of the opportunities that Butler Tech offers for our kids. And we talk about wanting to meet our kids where they are and opportunities for all, and Butler Tech allows us to provide a lot more opportunities for our kids that otherwise they wouldn't have access to. So I just would like to say that publicly. We appreciate Butler Tech and their partnership and everything that they do for our kids.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith.
yeah, I second that.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, we'll move on to item number 3. Bus route update.
Yes, actually, our next two items, we have 2020-21 bus routes and educational support assistance will be covered by Mr. Penny. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Penny.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll begin this evening with 2020-2021 bus routes. Similar to every school year at the beginning, I bring the bus routes to the board for approval. This is something that's a state law. A complete list of the routes is available in the transportation office if you're interested in viewing them in further detail. And this evening, under items for board action, you will see the item listed for approval. At this point, I'll open up to any questions regarding the 2020-2021 bus routes.
Any questions for Mr. Penny on the bus routes? I know it's a hard job to do. I can't imagine trying to do that. I have a hard enough time figuring out how to get the best way to go from the grocery store to the hardware store to the bank, and let alone cover a school district the size of Fairfield. So well done.
Our transportation department has a lot of challenges, but they're very, very
Yeah.
strong, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my second item is educational sports assistance. This is something I mentioned during the last board meeting when we were going over the new contract. It's something that was established new in the new negotiated agreement. There are multiple positions under this classification we will need to post for in the elementary schools. One of the primary purposes of this position is to provide instructional reading support. The hiring of people in this role as official employees will be new, but we have been providing these services to students through the daily hiring of people as substitutes for many years. So we've been doing this for a long time, but we've been bringing them as substitutes. Federal Title I funding will continue to pay for these services for all buildings except for North Elementary. North Elementary doesn't qualify as a Title I federally funded school. With that being said, the general fund will continue to pick up the cost for these services at North Elementary. At this point, I'll open up to any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Penny on educational support? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.